Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Net Zero Nuclear Pavilion in the Green Zone here at COP28. My name is Jennifer Gordon, and I'm the director of the Atlantic Council's Nuclear Energy Policy Initiative. And I'm so delighted to be here, now that we are all here, talking about nuclear horizons or nuclear frontiers, and focusing on new technologies, new countries, and new use cases. And it's really difficult to imagine a better group of people to talk about these subjects and to address these issues than this panel. So I'm really delighted to introduce our panelists for today. Dr. John Wagner, who is the Laboratory Director of Idaho National Laboratory. Dr. Stephen Yamoa, who is Executive Director of Nuclear Power Ghana. Mr. Joe St. Julian, who is President for Nuclear at Atkins Realis. Mr. Kazmin Gita, who is Chief Executive Officer of Nuclearelectrica. And Mr. Christopher Levesque, who is President and Chief Executive Officer of TerraPower. Chris, I'd like to go to you because, as you know, of course, you've turned Kemmerer, Wyoming, a tiny town in the southwest corner of Wyoming, into a household name, especially for anybody who cares about the future of nuclear energy. So tell us a little bit more about TerraPower's Natrium project.
Sure, Jennifer. And two things to note. You're hearing about multiple reactor designs, and we need them all. I'll say that because Kazmin and I were together last Saturday, where 22 countries announced that we need to triple nuclear energy by 2050. So we're going to need all these reactors you're hearing about. And I also wanted to talk maybe just about Africa and Ghana and the countries that don't have big commercial nuclear programs today. When Bill Gates founded TerraPower 15 years ago, and he's still our chairman, he did it for regions like Africa, Indonesia, because he and our other founders were futurists. They realized that we're going to have a growing need for energy. It needs to be emission-free, and nuclear fission was the best way to do that. So that's where our story started, and now we find ourselves in Wyoming. We've worked on the Natrium reactor for the first 10 years of TerraPower's life, and 3 years ago, through a grant through the Department of Energy, TerraPower won a $2 billion grant to assist us with building that first reactor. And we had to choose a site at that point, and we launched a site study. And it turns out that in the Mountain West, you have many coal plants that have been running, some of them 60, 70 years, okay? Really a rich heritage. I know we're phasing them out, but you have to respect these communities. These coal plant workers have been powering the rich economies on the West Coast, and then you have states like West Virginia doing the same on the East Coast. These communities are amazing places to demonstrate these first reactors because you have the grid connection, you have the cooling water, and importantly, you have the team. In fact, just 3 weeks ago, I was at the Kemmerer coal plant talking to 50 coal plant workers, briefing them on our project because we've committed that the 150 or so workers at the coal plant can come and work in our Natrium reactor plant. And some people would say, how can you move from a coal plant to a nuclear plant? Well, we make electrons the same way in a nuclear plant and a coal plant. We make steam, we spin a turbine. So the vast majority of the skills that we need to operate the future Natrium plant will come from that coal plant. It's things like electricians, ventilation technicians, maintenance people, pipe fitters. We're going to put all those people to work. And so that's also a great example of when you have a technology change, you want to just transition. You don't want to leave people behind. We're excited that we're bringing clean energy to people, but we're also excited about that economic development story in Wyoming, where we plan to build multiple plants. And just coming back to Africa, we were really pleased to be at the summit and represented in Ghana a few weeks ago. And what Bill Gates has said is for these new technologies like Natrium, we need to license them and demonstrate them in rich countries first. We don't want to come to Ghana or any other country and say, you have our first one, okay? We're going to demonstrate it in the U.S., and then it will be available in Ghana and all over the world in the 2030s.
Chris, thank you so much, and really appreciate your focus and mention of workforce development and the just transition. Chris, as we've mentioned before, it seems as though TerraPower is very, very focused on Kemmerer, Wyoming. However, we've also heard just now from you, and we know that TerraPower also has a global strategy and is keeping this broader international view. And I should have mentioned before, of course, you were also represented at the U.S. Africa Nuclear Energy Summit. So tell us a little bit about this regional to global strategy that your company is taking.
Sure. You know, I think it needs to be noted that many nuclear projects in the free world have struggled in the last few decades. So getting that first project right is the most challenging part. And we're so focused on that. Now that Vogtle 3 and 4 are done in Georgia, you could ask, well, what's the next American nuclear power plant? We believe that's Natrium, okay, in Kemmerer, Wyoming. We have 1,000 engineers working on that design right now, and we'll break ground when things thaw this spring in Wyoming. So we're very focused on proving that first one. You might have heard last Sunday, we announced an MOU with Emirates Nuclear Energy, ENEC, who, beyond building the 4 Baraka plants, has really established themselves as a global leader in nuclear energy. So at the announcement, Bill Gates joined us. He talked about building hundreds of Natrium reactors around the world because we're going to need that much energy. And to do that, we're going to need to get the first one proven, licensed by the NRC, demonstrated, but we're then going to quickly scale up in the 2030s. So for that, we need global partners like ENEC.
Chris, thank you so much. And I am so sorry to say that we are unfortunately out of time. But Chris, I love this note that you've ended us on, which is building in the scale of hundreds rather than in the ones and twos that we are seeing at the moment. But I think that we can all raise ambitions, and this is a great call to action. So everyone, please join me in thanking our panelists.